Well, I'll have to apologize first off for Steve. He's not available to us tonight. I know people are looking forward to hearing Steve's voice first, but you'll have to deal with me tonight. I think it was advertised that I was going to be a part of the panel, but it is tonight that I am the panel. So I'll be here trying to fill some very large shoes. Steve, my prayers are with you, and I'm hoping that the situation you're going through would have a positive outcome. Before we start, I think I would really just like to though send greetings to all of our listeners, and I know that people look forward to your voice with the NRP. Within recent times we've been making waves, and I'm glad to have you guys in my company tonight. People who are in the diaspora in particular, I know you need to know what is going on at home, and we welcome your participation as well in these talk shows. I think I like to start with positive things. So I think I had a choice. I could start with the negative or the positive, but I want to start with the positive, and I like to build, start from low and build. And so I would just like to wish all of the people who are in tune with us tonight a pleasant evening. I'm hoping that your day went well, and I'm hoping that your evening will top it off with your voice in the NLP. So I'm going to invite you guys tonight to be a part of the conversation. I don't necessarily enjoy hearing my voice, so I really would like to hear from you in the listening audience, all of those who are tuned in, whether it's by radio or some of the means. I know we have a good following on the social media platforms, and so to all of our viewers, all of our listeners, a pleasant good evening. I want to just apologize to those who may want to start with the positive thing, the negative things first, and then but I want to start with the negative things first. And the first thing is for us to send our condolences to the people who are hurting due to the impact of Hurricane Ian. I think it first touched places like Cuba, the western portion of Cuba, I understand, and we had some deaths reported there. I don't want to misquote the final number, and so I would just acknowledge that we had some deaths in Cuba. So I know we usually have students there. I hope that all our students came out of this unscathed, but I understand that the destruction there was by some people at least being described as being apocalyptic, meaning almost as if it's like the end of the world, the damage that Hurricane Ian would have ravaged on poor Cuba. But we know that we have some very resilient people in the Caribbean, and I'm sure that they would rebuild eventually. It probably would be a long struggle, but like I said, I depend on the resilience of our people, and of course the support from those of us who can. If there are any support drives going on, I'm encouraging all of us to participate as best as we can. We know that times are hard for everybody, but just recognize that some people have it harder than you do, and so you have been blessed so that you can bless someone else. So let us try and reach out the best we can to see if we can help to alleviate the plight of the people in Cuba. Then of course we know that Ian went on to the southwestern part of Florida, and to our people who are there, I hope all of us came out unscathed. Well, maybe that is asking a bit much, if depending on where in South Florida you did live. I'm just praying that you came out with your health intact, because we're understanding that at least tonight, the last I heard is that we had 95 deaths reported, and it is felt that we probably have some more to go in the next couple of days as they continue the rescue mission. Our prayers, of course, are with the people of South Florida, particularly the people of Fort Myers and the islands on the Outer Bank there. And we're understanding that the damage was indeed also described as being apocalyptic in that area. And I've seen some of the damage, and my heart really goes out to those people who have been so affected. I'm understanding we're hearing numbers like $75 billion in damage. That is unthinkable in the context of St. Kitts and Nevis, I would imagine. But for a place like Florida, I know they would get some help from the federal government, and I know in time they would rebuild and come out of this on the other side better. So our prayers go to those people in Cuba as well as South Florida. And we're thankful that these storms have missed us up to this point, but we cannot take things for granted. We've been blessed that we have not been touched in that way up to this point in time. And so we have to, though, continue to take these things seriously, because I understand that evacuation orders were given for some of those areas that were worst hit in Florida. And some people just didn't, for whatever the circumstances were, some people did not move. And then, of course, today we're hearing about people who maybe could have been saved. And so we have to be mindful of the power of nature. I don't know why we have been spared, but we have to thank our lucky stars that we have been spared. And like I said, let us not take that for granted. Let us be prepared as best as we can. I know things are hard for all of us, but to the extent that you can prepare for the hurricane season, I'm encouraging those of us who can to do whatever little we can now. Our prayers work, obviously our prayers work, but at some point we may be challenged beyond that. And so I want all of us to be encouraged to do what is right, do what within our best interests, because at the end of the day, personal responsibility is what is going to get us through some of these challenges. Because we recognize that we are on an island. At least the people in Florida maybe could have taken up, just jump in their cars or whatever means of transportation and probably head north, or probably heads west of Florida or some other safe haven. We probably would not have, we know we don't have that luxury to escape. And so if we were to bear the full brunt of it, let us be as prepared as we can be. I remember us going through storms and you pass and people sometimes didn't even put up as much as a piece of tape over the window. We just taking our safety for granted. So let us not do that. Let us look at what has happened, and let us learn, and let us pay heed, and let us plan accordingly. Because today for them, and the story goes tomorrow for us. It's always to be safe than sorry. And so we want to encourage all of our people to remember that the hurricane season extends up until the last day in November. So we still have almost 2 months to go. And so let's be mindful. There's already, some disturbance pretty close enough to us at this point in time. Let us keep our eyes on that. And for any other storm that comes across the Atlantic, or even if they were to originate in the Caribbean Sea, which is pretty unusual but has happened before, let us make sure that we pay attention. Make sure that we stick and stay with Von Radio, because we know that we're going to get the updates. Webo is going to be sure to at least inform us. And so let us make sure that we stay tuned to our dependable outlets, okay? So I think enough said about that, and I'm hoping, like I said, we go through the rest of the hurricane season and nothing bad happens to the rest of us. Now, on a more upbeat note, just this Saturday past, I hosted a wine and cheese event at the Malcolm Gishard Park, and it was well attended. And so tonight I want to just take the opportunity to just say thanks to those people who came out. We had people who couldn't come, but they supported nonetheless. And so I want to extend my gratitude to all those who would have participated in whatever way. And I just really have some special thank yous to people like Debbie, Judy, Smarty, Hensley, and Romelo. Those were the core people who would have pulled this thing off. Those are the people on whose wings and whose shoulders I would have been brought to that occasion. And I wouldn't disclose tonight all the good things that they would have done for me, but trust me, they did very well in terms of getting me there. All I had to do was just show up and smile, because they took care of everything. Even my nails, I don't usually go do my nails, but even that they took care of. And I'm so grateful to Judy and Debbie and Smarty and Hensley and Romelo for making me look good. making it good all around. And of course, we had some special donors. We had donors of food and beverage, of course. When you hear about the wine and cheese, it wasn't just exclusively wine and crackers and cheese. We did a little more than that. The guests were well taken care of, and so I wanted to thank people like Cork and Screws, who provide us with some very fancy wines. And of course, we have a special donor like Digicel. We had others too, but I don't want to get into any trouble tonight because I may just not be able to remember all of the names, and I don't want at the end of the night not to have acknowledged some people who made contributions and then feel left out. So I'm going to stop there with just those two acknowledgements. And of course, our patrons came out in their numbers, and it's a long time I haven't heard this word, but I was reading the feed, because it was a live feed, and so the comments I was reading, and I had to smile when I saw this one. Someone made a comment and said, "These people are shaking." Long time I haven't heard that word, but Nevis people came out to shake that night. And I had on my dandans too, so I was shaking. I didn't feel left out at all. But I think that really took me back to the days when people used to shake, and so I was really tickled pink with that one. Of course, we can't forget our musicians. They did a fantastic job, a fantabulous job, as some people would say, and we're so grateful. People didn't want to go home. We only had the place up until 10:30, and at 11 o'clock the poor musician can't get away because people keep calling him back. They didn't want to go home, and so I think he did a very good job, and I want to acknowledge them tonight. And of course, there was our MC, Rohan Isles. He makes a very good MC. That boy has a voice to die for, and so I want to congratulate him for all the work that he continues to do in terms of his support for the party in general. Our protocol team, what a special group of people, headed by Angelica. Angelica, you did a fantastic job. Take a bow. They were so professional, and I was really pleased, about the reception, and it was made special by the protocol team that we had on the ground. Of course, the people with the banquet service team, the people who brought around the food and set out the food, wow, it was a very nice display. I'm very proud, and I think our patrons really had a good time. We can't forget, though, the vibrant youth arm, the NRP youth arm, and Saneldo and her crew. They did a fantastic job. And I'm stuck on this word fantastic for a while. I'm going to try and use another word. But they did. I don't want anybody to think that I use a word that someone else, that really glorifies somebody more than them. So I'm going to stick with fantastic. And Sanelda and her team, the youth arm, they did a fantastic job. And thanks for the support. They're always there. These kids, they're full of energy, and they have the drive, and I admire that. And of course, to my fellow candidates, they were there to support in their numbers, and you should have seen my leader in her white. I mean, she really looked regal, so thanks to my fellow candidates for coming out. And Rohan, wow, what else can I say about Rohan? Rohan is mounting a comprehensive challenge to his competitor in the Gingerland area, because I tell you, when I said wow, I didn't know Rohan could dance like that. Rohan can dance, and like I said, nobody can outdo Rohan, not in that department. So I think that his competitor in Gingerland, has something else. He must compete on a different level, because Rohan could dance. Rohan, I salute you. All in all, it was a spectacular evening. We had wonderful people. We had great food. And of course, we had more than enough wine and the best music. What else could you ask for? So for those who are asking for the second edition, all I'm going to say to you at this point is just a little teaser. I'm going to say to you, just stay tuned, because if you thought that we were good this time around, trust me, you'll be blown away with our next event. So just stay tuned, and we would get the information to you in due course. But meanwhile, on a different level, we have to prepare for an election. And all that we were doing about getting our people together and raising funds and all that, we know we have to raise funds, because we have to do this thing decently and in order. We cannot go around and bribe people and all that, because that is not what we are about. So we want to make sure that our funds are secured, and we want to make sure that we go about it, doing it in a decent way. At the end of the day, we cannot compromise our integrity. That is the only thing that we have left. It seems that some people are not minded to, to pay attention to integrity, but as a party, that is, I think we have a new dimension now. We're focused on going in a new direction, and I think that we have to make sure that we do things right. And so, as we prepare to go into an election, I realize that the CCM has started, and they have started by acquiring their first doctor. So I'll say congratulations to them. I think we are ahead on that one. So, as we get ready, I think we are ready to match our competitors as it relates to our competence, our experience, and our accomplishments. So we have a team that is well versed and diversified, and we are ready to represent the people of Nevis. Now, our people must now start to focus, though, on the issues that are plaguing us here on Nevis. We must continue to ask for transparency and accountability. And well, maybe now might be a good time for us to just maybe cut away, technician, and just play our... Okay, yeah. So we'll just take a short break and we'll be right back.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
And we're back. We just had to cut away for just a short break, just for a water break. And just to at least tell you what we're all about. And you are indeed tuned into Your Voice with the NRP. As I said before, and for those who may just now be joining us, Steve, your regular host, is not in tonight, and he hopefully will be back next week. We're praying for the best outcome for him and his situation he's facing today. So before we cut away, I was talking about us demanding as a people accountability from our elected representatives, and I'm not just talking about the CCM and the MRM, I'm talking about NRP as well. We must always, as Nevision, ask people to account for their stewardship, and we shouldn't take anything less. Anything less is to be not serving Nevis, in the way it ought to be served, and that's why I think maybe we may be lagging in some of the social and economic indicators that I think we ought to have at least be measuring, but sometimes get glossed over with all the fancy talk sometimes. And so I want us to keep holding our government to their feet to the fire, so to speak. We have been asking questions and time again, and sometimes we don't get answers in a timely manner. For instance, for weeks we were asking about, at least asking the Premier to give us an account as to what transpired with the $79 million that we understood that a court would have awarded against the people of Nevis, that is the NIA, which really is the people of Nevis, to the Ocean Reef Resort Limited, and we couldn't hear anything. And then last week, I think it was the last time that he was on, I understand that he made a statement, or he tried to fuzz over the thing, and some people were more confused at the end of it than they were before he started. And so my little understanding, I would like to just share my little understanding as to what has happened there as it relates to the $79 million. And by the way, our numbers to call are 469-1616, 469-1700. So you can, at any point in time, you can call in and interrupt, and I would entertain your calls, because like I said, I'm here alone tonight, so I welcome your input at any point in time. So just before I digressed, I was making the point that the $79 million judgment against us has not been very well, I think, explained to our people. Most of our people do not understand the legal terms, and so I was expecting that the Premier would just break it down and just to outline for us what actually happened, because I myself, I was seeking clarity on it. I didn't have access at the time. I didn't know much about the case, because it's something that, from time to time you hear we're in court and then we're not, and things like that. But apparently this is a case that started since 2015 or 2014, something like that, I understand. And the 2017, I'm correct, I stand corrected, 2017. And apparently the people at the Ocean Reef Resort, these were some developers who had planned to develop a property in the St. James's area. And there was some issue related to the acquisition of land adjacent to or contiguous to the piece of property that they had in their possession, and they wanted to expand and make sure that they have a bigger piece of the rock, so to speak, so they could put down this resort that they could employ people in the St. James's area and other places in Nevis. The Premier said that they got involved in the acquisition melee in an attempt to secure a piece of land for Nevisians, so that we could get to go to the beach to, I guess he means the once a year thing over there at Herbert's Beach, to expand to do the Herbert's Beach affair. I don't know how they would have arrived at, those kind of maths, how you leverage the information that I got. I don't understand how one could use that information, use your power to acquire lands to disrupt a potential development that could have led to the employment of Nevisians, just to get a piece of land to use once a year. I don't understand how you just misuse your leverage like that. But be it as it may, the cabinet apparently made the decision that they were going to get themselves embroiled in this melee that was going on over there. Then the people at Ocean Reef took them to court, or attempted to take them to court, and notice was served on them. They made a claim, and the claim was served on the NIA. Through the normal procedure, what then people normally serve it through the legal department, I would imagine, and some secretary there would have signed for it and all that. The decent thing, or as it relates to procedure, from what I understand, then the NIA should have acknowledged that they were served, and they did not, and so they failed to file the acknowledgement of the service of the claim. And because of that, we ended up with a default judgment. Subsequent to that, we ended up with a default judgment against us for an amount of $79 million. However, it was arrived at. I am not getting into all those specifics because I really don't understand how we got to that point of the $79 million, because the documents that I would have been privy to up to this point did not show me where the claim would have been made for the $79 million in the first instance. However, be that as it may, fast forward to today, we are now hearing that an appeal was made against the judgment, and people were claiming that they were not properly served, the NIA was not properly served. Long and short is that now we're hearing the case has to now be taken to the Privy Council, because we had other ramifications after the appeal was heard. We are now hearing things about the legitimacy of the Nevis Island Administration as a legal entity as it relates to being able to sue or be sued. And so we are now hearing that now has to be taken to the Privy Council to be sorted out. Now, we've always heard that one of the reasons why people don't usually reach that far is because it is so expensive to move the court at that level. And so what this means is the consequence of the action is that Nevisians going to have to pay at some point in time. They say, who don't pay Peter going to have to pay Paul? And it seems like that is what is going to happen at this point in time. We are taking this to the Privy Council to be sorted out, and so Nevisians going to obviously have to pay the price for that. Now, I said all that to say that when it comes to accountability and people behaving in a lawful manner, this should not have gotten to this point. If someone serves you and you know that your conduct should be, or the response to that should be for you to file whatever, then we should have done that. How much was it going to cost us to do it at that level? But we didn't do that. And it seems to me like it is a pattern of behavior. And I am not comfortable with that level of representation, because it reflects a level of lawlessness that I don't think should be resident in the cabinet of the NIA. We do not want people to be lawless, the same people who should be making laws. People ought to be conducting themselves, being cognizant of the fact that their behavior or their conduct is not going to ultimately be costing them anything, but it's going to cost the island of Nevis. And we're already struggling. And those of us who live here, we recognize the struggles that Nevis is going through. So let us not, at least think that NRP is somehow inflating this thing, because that's not what it is. We must look at the pattern of behavior. Because when we look, if we could recall, in 1995, CCM, in their lawless ways, they stopped paying into the consolidated fund which was the tax revenues that were collected between St. Kitts and Nevis. The Constitution dictated that we pay all the tax revenues that we collected in Nevis into this fund, and then we extract from it a 25%. They stopped paying that in 1995, when the Constitution specifically spoke to us participating in that way. That was lawless. And so Nevis has suffered loss of revenue because of that action. It didn't cost them anything. It has not cost CCM anything. It has cost the people of Nevis. And it continues to cost us. Up to this day, we're still not in that regular arrangement that we ought to have been in, the legitimate arrangement that we ought to have been in. And so up to today, the last time I checked, the last 3 years, we would have lost $81 million by not participating in the revenue sharing mechanism that was designed to make sure that there was fair sharing of revenue between St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we can think also about the West Haven property that the NRP would have acquired when they were in office during the 2006 to 2012 area. I mean, this property was acquired. Again, I don't know all of the intimacies of that acquisition, but what I understood from it is that we, like men, seem, and I don't want this to sound sexist, but sometimes it just seems like we like to get ourselves embroiled in things that we ought not to. But there was some issue related to settling the matter between West Haven as well, and we interjected ourselves there, and it has cost Nevis. So what had happened is that NRP would have acquired the property, compulsory acquisition from the West Haven, and at that point in time, I think they were thinking about a final settlement of about $5 million or thereabout, $5 or $6 million from what I understand. But when the CCM now came, they didn't pay the final, it wasn't settled at that point in time, and by the time they exited office, CCM came back in power, and between 2013 up until this day, they have not yet settled that matter. Now, the longer it stays unsettled, what we need to understand as taxpayers is that that is going to cost us. Because from what I understand, when they CCM returned to power in 2013, they renegotiated from the $5 to $6 million that NRP would have already negotiated for the property. They went ahead and renegotiated. And for some strange reason, at that point in time, the property was valued by them, their evaluators, for, I think, was $13 million or thereabout. Now, think about it. If in 2013 or thereabouts, you had a property that was valued at $13 million, this is 2022. This is like almost 10 years. Could you imagine the interest compounded on that? The value of that property up to this point? And today, if CCM were to leave government today, the taxpayers are the ones who would have to sort that mess out. So I said that to say that we have a litany of cases where these guys have been acting rogue, acting as if they don't care, they can do what they feel like, but that is not what we would have elected people to do. We elected people to run our affairs in a decent manner, being cognizant of the laws of the land, being able to make laws to advance our development, not to get us stagnated as we are now. Because the longer these things go unchecked, the more problems we are going to encounter down the road. And we are already in debt that really I don't understand how we could justify most of the debt that we are in up to this point. But we are already hearing that we at least almost another $1 billion in debt again. I mean, all these things are adding up. And then if we were to even go further, in 2014, CCM would have also stopped the pooling of the VAT revenues, and Nevis has lost revenue again. And I think I would have made reference already for the last 3 years. We would have lost like over $81 million in revenue that we were not able to recover from St. Kitts. I'm knocking St. Kitts, because if we don't make representation to get what is ours, we'll never get it. And so I'm saying that we're lacking in proper representation, and it's time for us to take a hard look at that. Now, coming up to this, I think in 2018, there was another case where they acted rogue again, in that there was this case with the Paradiso, or I think Paradise Beach Holdings, I think something like that is the name of the place, Paradise Beach Resort. There was some saga going on there as well, where we were hearing that there were some cottages that were built where they were not supposed to. Apparently, they wanted to build cottages below the watermark, which is below 120 feet away from the, you call it the water's edge. But there's a term for it that I'm trying to remember where, but anyway. They went from the water's edge, I think it was 120 feet from the area of permanent vegetation. That's what it was. The area of permanent vegetation. They should not have built anything closer. So backwards, going towards land, to 120 feet should not have been encroached on. They gave permission, even though they were advised that they should not let the people build there. They still gave them permission, overrode the advice that they got, and let the people at Paradiso build in that area. It was taken to court. Subsequently, we heard that these villas that were put there were supposed to be moved. And I don't know what happened to that. I'm yet to hear anybody come back to the public to give us a status review on what has happened and why in the first instance it was allowed to happen, but Cabinet apparently decided that they would let the people build where they were not supposed to, and so they were taken to court and they lost. Subsequent to that, we are yet to get a formal report. At least I have not seen a formal report to the people of Nevis to tell us what the status is as it relates to that. Were the villas removed? What happened at appeal? I don't know. And I think we ought to know. Because like I said, all these cases that I would have cited is just demonstrating the level at which our elected officials on Nevis seem to think that they are not, or they ought not to be law-abiding citizens at that level. They get elected and they think that they could just do what they feel like. So we're yet to hear about that. We're waiting. I'm hoping that when he has his next press conference, he would address these matters, because by the time they demit office, we need to know where we're at. And so we need a full accounting as to what they would have done, their stewardship over the last 7 years. Well, not only the last 7 years, since 2017, from this administration, at least. Let us just let them account for what they've done for the last 5 years. Let us not go beyond that. Let them deal with what they have, to deal with before them. And so I want to remind others that I'm not here tonight just to speak to myself. and I'm asking you to call in. I want us then to look further at something else, and this is, like I said, just a litany of the pattern of behavior of these people. The Alexandria Hospital, we are yet to hear what is going on there. Time and time again, when we bring up the issue, we're hearing, oh, it's that again, but it is that again because it has not been resolved, and we need to know. What I've been hearing within recent times does not suggest to me that it is anything that is ready for us to occupy. In July of this year, just before the federal election, there was a flurry of activity going on there. And when I passed there, I saw windows going in, I saw painting being done, and I said, okay, well, at least they're being pressured to deliver for people. Lo and behold, I've passed back there since, and nothing else has happened. Since the election, there seemed to have been a lull. I know that it has been rainy season, but I know that that is not what has stopped the works there. In the meantime, if it is that because the last I heard is that it would have been delivered to us by December. Now December is another 2 months now down the road. And I need to find out, why is it if we are on schedule to deliver this project, that is the Alexandria Hospital expansion project, if we are on schedule to deliver on it by December, as was said, and I heard him say that, why is it we're still pursuing a container, at least trying to set up a container for temporary housing of the CT scan? And well, first we need to locate this CT scan. That again is something else. We need to know that this CT scan is not a scam. We need to know where the CT scan is, and I don't want anybody to tell me that it was because of Ian, because obviously, Ian came long after the CT scan should have been here. So the question is, why are we pursuing temporary housing for the CT scan if we are that close to completion of the project? Then I think that we should have been making arrangement to put the CT scan where, or to house it exactly where it is destined to be housed permanently. And so there's no reason for us to be doing these two projects simultaneously with the same opening date. So it is not adding up, and I just need people to know that we're not being fooled, because things are not adding up. As it relates to other activities at the hospital, I have heard within recent times that there are works going on to accommodate the relocation of the diagnostic laboratory from the hospital to a site of property, a site where the intention is for us to pay rent. Not only that, we have to modify the site to which we're going. So if we are that close, and I ask the same question again, if we are that close to the completion of the expansion project at the Alexandria Hospital, why are we making modifications to someone else's property to house the laboratory of the Alexandria Hospital? These things are not adding up. Well, obviously, they are adding up as it relates to the expense that is going to be borne by the taxpayers, but it doesn't add up in terms of logical explanation as to what we have been hearing and what we are now seeing. So we definitely need to get an end. We need to have a resolution to the Alexandria Hospital expansion project. I don't know, the last update that we got, I don't think it was accurately reflecting the state of affairs, and I think this time it is overdue. Actually, it is overdue for us to get another update, a more realistic update as to how far we are with this project and how much more it's going to cost us and how much longer we're going to have to wait, because in the meantime, New Visions are suffering. Things are tight all around for all of us, and when we get sick, we just cannot afford to go off island to seek medical attention, and it is not fear that we have to. We have been promised better as it relates to healthcare, and we demand better I think we deserve better. And so I just want to make the appeal again to those who I know would be listening just for the slip of the tongue. But tonight I need for you to focus on the message. Never mind the imperfections in the language. We need to find out what is going on with our hospital expansion project and how soon it would be delivered. Now, if we can go on a little bit further, we're going to deal with something else. I know that we at least NRP advocated for it, advocated for a relief for our people as it relates to this fuel surcharge that NEVLEC, well, I guess by necessity, would have been extracting from us to pay. And I think someone would have tried to explain that a lot of the wastage we have to pay for collectively, and a lot of the government use, which sometimes is misuse, has to be paid for by all of us. Thank you for the caller. Good night, you're on.
Good evening, Dr. Bartlett.
Good evening.
I hope you're having an enjoyable evening. I also want to say that I believe that the government owes the explanation as to why the hospital has not yet finished. And if that explanation doesn't come before the election, the people of Nevis are duty bound to vote out the government. And it cannot be correct, it cannot be good in the interest of good governance, transparency, accountability, all of those things. So we will begin a hospital extension, not a hospital that survives, it is an extension from 2017 to 2022. And after 5 years, we don't know the status. We realize every now and then there is some work going on there, but there is no systematic effort being made to complete the project. And so this is tough and the list for the people of Nevis. Remember, none of us knows when we will get sick and the extent of our illness. So we have to use the hospital. Very important. The hospital is going to be our first point of contact. And even if we are going to be taken overseas for medical attention, we will take you from the hospital. You know, we take you from the hospital. So I'm just urging that all of us should have an interest in ensuring that the extension is finished. And if it is that we have spent 18 million, 20 million, we should know as well. And this cannot be accepted and we are having an election. So the people just can't go to vote and don't care about the hospital. How could you not care about the hospital and then you may end up there? So I just think I want to join you in expressing that concern about the need for accountability and proper reporting and tell us the truth. Lying has become part and parcel of politics now in recent times, and it's a tragedy that you don't know. You expect your ministers of government to tell you the truth. So that is a critical one. Dr. Bartlett, you have been speaking in the past about single women, the struggles they face, and I would just like you to continue to share some of the concerns they have so that they would know that you as a candidate are highlighting their concerns or highlighting their struggles. And the service you of course, you have been speaking to that very often. Port St. John's is the most poverty-stricken parish in the whole of the government. 38, 30 parishes, and all the parishes in Eastern St. John's is the poorest. So the voters have to vote to raise the bar and to get the parish to be at a higher level. So let's not share those concerns. Thank you very much.
We'd like to say thank you to that caller. We have another caller. Caller, you're on. Welcome.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
My question is related to the cost of electricity. Should you assume office or the NRP assume office following the next local election? what would be NRP's, or what are some of the measures that you would take or implement in response to the high cost of electricity? Thanks.
Thank you, caller. Thanks for that question. Is there another caller? No? Okay. So let's deal with the last caller first. Yes? Caller, as it relates to electricity, and I was just about to get into the meat of the matter as it relates to NEVLEC and the operation of NEVLEC. Obviously, NEVLEC is operating in the red. We don't know because we have not been getting audited reports for NEVLEC. At least I have not seen, and NEVLEC is a SOE, and I think that the people of Nevis ought to know how indebted NEVLEC is, to have an appreciation as to where we are and how we're going to start and how we're going to, suss things out. It seems to me that the fuel surcharge, and I think most of us would have at least recognized some kind of ease, so to speak, in the last electricity bill that we had to pay, because government, without thinking about it, and I don't know, let me not say that they have not thought about it, but it seems to me that no plan has been put in place to make sure that this is a sustainable intervention. We, on the other side, in NRP, what we have said is that for the first 6 months that we would have waived this, we would have made sure that we made an allocation to cover the surcharge so that divisions could get the relief that we think that we deserve. We need some breathing space. We said that at the same time, because we can very well walk and chew gum. It seems like it can't happen on CCM side. They seem not to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. But we're saying that we must pursue renewable energy. That is something that post haste. We have to, as soon as we assume office, we must start pursuing renewable energy. And I think that the most feasible option to us at this point in time is solar energy. And that is something that we must do. In the interim, we have to make sure that government absorbs as much as it can to make sure that there's breathing space for our people. But we must do so being mindful of the fact that we have other obligations, and so it must be something that is budgeted for. Because like I said, I am well aware that NEVLEC is operating in the red. The Premier, after pressure from NRP, came on and said, okay, they're going to waive this fuel surcharge for homeowners. Not saying the same doesn't apply to commercial enterprises. But we are not hearing how it would be paid for, and that is what is concerning, because I would have made a statement before as it related to something else. If you don't pay Paul, you're going to have to pay Peter. If you don't pay one, you're going to have to pay the other one. And so if you don't pay on the front end, you're going to have to pay on the back end. Where is this money coming from? What it seemed to me is happening is that NEVLEC is being driven even further into the red, when the discretionary spending probably should be within the budget of the NIA in order to give us relief. So that is something that we would budget for. It is true that we're going to have to see where we can trim some fat. And where we see the fat right now is that we see a lot of contractors here on Nevis, and I'm not targeting them, mind you, but the system of corruption that is going on, there's a lot of leakage that is going on there. If we could just stop that, we can get relief for our people as it relates to fuel surcharge. If we could just stop some of that leakage as it relates to the contractors, and I use contractors, lightly. But the point is, though, we have too much leakage in the system as it relates to our finances. Our financial situation in Nevis is almost like a sieve, and all these people who are close to all of the ministers, it seems, have something going on. You can hear it. So you live in Nevis, so you know. We all would have heard, and caller, if you're living on Nevis and you have not yet heard, you're not well positioned. You need to expand, the people who you interact with. If you're in a circle and you have not yet heard, it means that somebody is keeping something from you. Because all of us in Nevis now would hear about all these contracts that sometimes people are not even delivering services on. And so if we can stop all these leakages, then I think that we could very well address some of the other issues that ought to be addressed. The caller previous to you would have asked about interventions to help single mothers with dependent children. And those are some of the social safety nets that I think are not getting addressed at a time like this, when the economy is so bad and people really need the help because of all these leakages, and I just want to keep them in quotes, leakages that we're having. And so those are the things that I think once we streamline the operation of government and we take away all the corruption that is going on, I think that we could weather the storm a little bit. Because based on the little that we're taking in, when we get back into the revenue sharing mechanism that ought to be in place, and we start to capture some of the leakage we also having by not at least pooling our resources with St. Kitts and getting our revenue back as we should, as the Constitution would have stipulated, then we could get some ease if we were to do that. And so that again is something that we have to do at the same time. All these things have to be going on simultaneously. So on the one hand, we have to stop the leakages, and on the other hand, we have to make sure that we are spending the people's money wisely. And so I think we can do it, because I don't know of anyone in my party at this point in time who would tolerate the kind of behavior that we are seeing and hearing about, in terms of just a few of the people in the community who are being, their pockets are being bulging, full and running over, bursting at the seams, and other people are struggling. So that is one of the issues that I think we must deal with. But like I said, I think that NEVLEC cannot continue to operate the way it is. We need to make sure that we have audited reports coming out. We need to see, if it is not, operating optimally. We need to see where the deficiencies are. We need to see where we can improve as it relates to, productivity. All those issues that are weighing us down. All those issues about going around or government buildings that are taking a lot of electricity usage because people leave AC on during the night when they're gone home. Things like that. We need to make sure that we start to conserve energy and make it cheaper for our people. So we have initiatives that we would be rolling out as soon as we touch the ground, because we have to touch the ground running. And so I think you can rest assured that once you elect us as your next set of representatives, things would be done decently and in order, and we would get the relief. Mind you, I'm not trying to suggest that it would be kumbaya and we wouldn't have work to do. It's a lot of work, because I think I would have alluded earlier to the level of the debt, or the debt burden that we have to carry as a small population. So those are things that we have to work on. The first caller would have talked about the hospital, and of course we are in concurrence here. You're not going to get any debate other than to suggest that we need to speed up and find some way of getting these people to speed up what they're doing there, and so that we could regularize the delivery of health care to our people who are well deserving. I've been advised we can't say everything that we're going to do, and I can assure this caller that in twos we'll talk in twos, and I would share all the measures that I have in place. But we have recognized that every time we come out and we say what we would do, shortly thereafter, without any reservation whatsoever, the other side, the CCM, would just do it as if, well, they would have thought about it. And I don't know that we necessarily want to empower these people to continue with the mismanagement. So there are things that we are looking to do for single mothers, as it relates to getting them out of poverty, as it relates to retooling them, making sure that they're in a position to do for themselves, to be self-dependent. We need more single mothers who are into the skilled workforce, and that is something that we are always talking about, making sure that our ladies are skilled and could, at the end of the day, be forming companies and employing people to do things like electricity and plumbing and those kind of things. And so we have a lot to do as it relates to retooling our people, re-educating some of our people, and at least helping especially our single mothers. The deficiencies that we find on an individual basis, we'll have to assess them obviously, but generally these are things that we are thinking about. We are thinking about at least financial literacy, because sometimes I find that we could do with some help. At least all of us can do with some help in that regard. The social safety nets that like I said, I wouldn't really want to expound too much on, just because we have some copycats out there who just think that we should come up with the ideas and they should be lazy about thinking and then just do, and that should be enough for them to stay in government. So I'm just mindful of that, and I just want to make sure that our people know that we are not lazy, and we are not just sitting down twiddling our thumbs and wearing mascara and doing our nails. We are really making plans, to really go out there and deliver on behalf of the people, not only in healthcare, not only for road maintenance, because that's obviously that they're doing on the other side, road maintenance on walls, but the other social issues that ought to be addressed, to get us as a people to move, forward. And so I can assure you, caller, that we have plans for single mothers. But like I said, I can't elaborate too much on the plans that we have for our single mothers. So, moving right along, I think the caller would have called just when I was about to get into the issue of the subsidy and how is it being subsidized. And so we have to ask our Premier, how is it the subsidy for the homeowners, how is it being paid for? You can't just say you're going to pay for the thing, you remove all these restrictions, and then later we know that we're going to have to pay for it later. So he needs to come and let us know what programs he might have cut out, because we have not heard about any appropriation bill going forward, emergency appropriation bill that would give them the spending power to expand the spending power beyond what they would have already allocated for spending for this fiscal year. And so what programs are you sacrificing? We need to know where this money is coming from. We have not heard, and we ought to know. I think we have a right to know. At least when I went to pay my electricity bill, I felt pleased that I was paying less. And like I said, I have reservations. I don't mind paying little by little and get it done. But I don't like surprises, and I just don't want, when they demit office, then NRPS to be struggling to make sure that these interventions are sustainable. And so we need to find out, Mr. Premier, I know you're listening, how is it you're paying for the subsidies that you have removed the surcharge from the NEVLEC bill? And we need to know forthwith. We can't wait until after the elections to find out, or have it being reimposed after the election, because you just had not thought about how you were going to pay for it in the first place. So I know that our leader would have said that for the first 6 months, in taking office, she would have removed the surcharge right away. And that would have lasted for the first 6 months. I don't know this intervention that the Premier has instituted now in reaction to what she would have said, for how long he's proposing that this subsidy would last, or if he retains office, if he would just put it right back on. And people need to know these tricks. These people sometimes just tricky. They're very tricky, so you have to keep our eyes on them. And so I'm not going to shy away from that. I recognize that it was because just a few weeks prior, he would have been saying to us, Navisions, you're all going to better suck salt and pay your surcharge, because NEVLEC is not going to get any deeper in the red. And then all of a sudden, there was a change of heart, and this mysterious funding that I, still want to find out about, showed up, and so we need to know. All right. So we have another half an hour left. And I just want to focus just a little bit, though, on St. John's, because that is the area for which I am quoting the people. I'm quoting them seriously, because I think we need a change. We deserve a change. We need somebody who's really going to represent the interests of the people and not interests of themselves. And so I am working feverishly to make sure that that happens. And of course, like I said, it's not about tricks, no gimmicks and no tricks. I'm not about that. But there's some issues though that are shocking, things that are happening, and people are saying, people are watching these things happen and shaking their head and telling you, looking you straight in your face and telling you, no, they're not happening. Now, if I'm sitting on a cushion on the chair and you came in the door, you would say, oh, and you had to give an account as to where you met me when you came in, you would say, oh, she was sitting on the chair. You're not going to go back and report, oh, she was sitting on the cushion. No, you're going to go and say that Pat was sitting on the chair. And so it bothers me when the Premier was going to go on and try to suggest that I was lying when I said that at the Ivor Walters Primary School, at some point in time, the kids had to be sitting on the floor. I did not know why they had to sit on the floor at the time, because there was no good reason given at that point in time why they were sitting on the floor, except someone said that the classroom was not ready. They had an extra week, and by the time the kids showed up to school, the classroom was not ready. One of his protectors, let me just call her that, came out and said, well, maybe somebody stole the chairs and the tables, maybe somebody did this, maybe somebody did that. But the report I got from someone inside the institution was that the kids had to sit on mats on the floor. So I said the kids were sitting on the floor, because if you're sitting on this, I'd be already established, if you're sitting on the cushion on the chair, you're sitting on the chair. So if you're sitting on the mat and the mat is on the floor, then you're sitting on the floor. And I'm not going to retract that. And I didn't say it with any malice. I didn't say it because I want to destroy Ivor Walters Primary School. That is the school I went to and I care about. And I've done things to advance the conditions at the school. As a matter of fact, the first time that a classroom at Ivor Walters got ceramic tiles or any kind of tiles on the floor, I am the person who would have installed them, physically put them down on the floor, took my time. At the time, my friend and co-worker at the time had a son going there, and she was appalled at the condition of the school because it had not really improved any since we had left, and that would have been in 30-something years before that, we would have left there. And so she decided with some other people to raise some funds, and they went and they purchased the tiles and the tile cement. And I went on my own, got down on my knees, I mixed the cement, I applied it, and I put the tiles down. Maybe they not have been as straight as maybe a contractor would have done them, but the first time that school had ceramic tiles or any kind of tiles on the floor, I'm the one who put them there. So I'm not about trying to bring down Ivor Walters School as if I have something against this school. That is preposterous. You don't make those kind of allegations against somebody like me, who have done so much for the community and continue to do for the community. I don't do and talk, but I just thought it was important to say that, just to make the point that I'm not about destroying my school. I'm proud of my school, because had it not been for that school, I would not be where I am today. And so I would always do what I can for Ivor Walters, and I want the best for Ivor Walters. It pains me when I pass through, because I have to pass there. I don't know if he passes there as often as I do, and he definitely doesn't go in there often. But when I pass there and I see these two job sheds down there, I don't like it. I think we deserve better. And had I been in his seat for as long as he's in that seat, Ivor Walters would have had an upgrade by now. We would have had a decent looking school in Brownhill, because I'm a very parochial person. I'm looking after my own first. No, well, there's a charity begins at home, and so that would be, I think, one of my priorities. Ivor Walters, the upgrade at Ivor Walters. Kids shouldn't still have to leave the classroom to walk through the rain to go to the bathroom. Mind you, I understand a little thing was done down by the job shed them now, so that they could access their one toilet. So I guess other kids have to sometimes, stand up outside and squeeze their legs while one person using the toilet if it is raining. But from the time I left there until now, we still have the toilet far removed from the classrooms. So you have to go through. Good thing we don't have to go to snow and all that to get to it. But it is overdue. We need an upgrade at Oliver Walters Primary. Because what I find has not happened is that we have not had enough thought put into planning. We have not planned our communities very well. And we should have been at a point where we are building sustainable communities. We are building sustainable cities, because that is one of the sustainable development goals that the United Nations speaks about. And these are goals that have been set with our concurrence. We would have been at the table when we said these are reasonable goals for us to achieve for our people. And so, when we talk about planning, we need to recognize that St. John's is blowing up. I mean, it's true that the CCM has not really done a lot of housing, in that area. They have not built a lot of houses in St. John's. But notwithstanding, the population in St. John's continues to grow, but the school remains the same except for the 2 drop sheds that have been put on, and they don't even have desks and chairs in those 2 drop sheds up to today. Well, let me not say that, because it could have been done since I recently got an update on that. So, up until recent times, they would have built 2 drop sheds there and they were not habitable. All right. So, point made. So, don't listen, people, to what the Premier decides to come on a Wednesday night and with the flowery language. I'm always impressed with his flowery language that says a lot of garbage, because it does not necessarily have an affinity for the truth. And I don't like that in my representative, and I would have said that before. It's about time people start seeing it for what it is, and I do not sugarcoat anything. But when I said that Ivor Walters School deserves better, I mean it, and that, I say, would be one of the first order of business for me as a representative for the people of St. John's. Now, let us move on to the Bath Road. And I came through there tonight and I'm still not impressed. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what the focus is. And we need to recognize that we are in an environment where resources are scarce, but we're not operating as if we are aware that, things are scarce. And so every time I come to there, I'm pained because my shocks them taking a beating. By the way, in Brownhill, same thing too. Our side roads, they need fixing. And I think that would be something that we need to address, in short order. But coming through Bath, I don't understand how the people in Bath continue to vote for this CCM. I just can't understand that. I don't get it. People need to start focusing on good representation, because you're not getting it. Bath people, you are not getting good representation from your elected representative, who you continuously vote for whatever the strange reason is, for 15 years, and you're still struggling right now through a hurricane season. Now, if I were to be the person responsible for works on the road during the hurricane season, the last 6 months of the year would be the worst time of the year for me to choose to do any major development work. But we're in the middle of the hurricane season. God forbid that something should happen to disrupt, something pass over us, and the roads get washed out and emergency crews cannot get through because the road is in such a disarray at this point in time. Not a good time. The timing is bad. It means that it is bad planning. We need to plan better than that. We should just be doing maintenance work on roads during the hurricane season, and that is just my view, and I think it is a sensible view. I don't understand how you could dig up the people's roads, and it is difficult to pass right now as it is. Heaven forbid that we get a downpour of rain similar to what would have passed us the other day, and then Bath could very well be cut off from the rest of us because of the road situation. But they continue to plod along, and it seems like the focus is still on the walls. Now I say, when you have scarce resources, you can't be focusing on just the roads, no, on just the walls, sorry. You have to focus on getting the road done, getting out of there, making sure that people could be able to do their business going back and forth. So look, it's about time that people in Bath, I'm going to appeal to you again, wake up, see what's going on, and see what deploy is. And by we're talking about Bath, I think it's about time, and it is long overdue that we got a let me not call it a bathroom facility down by the Bath stream for our visitors. I can't imagine in 2022 we have people coming here to visit us from all over the world. They go to the Bath stream and they can't even have a little privacy to change their clothes. Not even that. We need a bathroom. How expensive is it to deliver on something like a bathroom? But anyway, I'll have to leave it right there for now. One of the other questions I want to just leave out there, because I know the Premier is going to listen, and I want him to give us an update on the poverty assessment survey that was done, I think, for 2021. It's long overdue. We need to know where we're at. We need to know how many poor people we have. The last thing we got was that we have a poverty rate of 30.7%. That is a 31% poverty rate. That is, wow, alarming. Then it probably has gotten worse. We need to know how bad it is, because we cannot plan effectively if we don't know how bad the problem is. We have to diagnose first before we can treat. But look, I'll have to leave it there because I want to do something for our people. And I'm talking about the people who came to the Wine and Cheese event on Saturday. We had a cell phone that we were supposed to give out, and because we had so many other activities going on and we just didn't get to giving out the cell phone, so I want to give the people who were there the opportunity to call in tonight, answer me 2 questions, and you can win yourself a cell phone. I don't want to give you the specs of the cell phone because you know how things are these days, but trust me, it is a nice cell phone, right? So the questions that I would want to ask, and mind you, I have qualifying conditions, which I've already said, that you must have been in attendance at the cocktail on Saturday night gone, the Wine and Cheese event, by virtue of either a special invitation or by ticket. So if you were there, specially invited, or you were there because someone gave you a ticket or you bought a ticket, then you qualify to call in and win yourself the cell phone. And I'm going to make the question simple, and we have a few minutes to play it, right? We have 15 minutes? Yes, the technician has said yes, we have 15 minutes. So in that period of time, win yourself a cell phone. And the first question is, and mind you, you have to answer 2 questions, because I can't give you a whole cell phone just with 1 question. So listen up. Name 2 sponsors that we had for the Wine and Cheese event, which was held at the Malcolm Bishard Park on the 1st of October 2022. And I would have mentioned these 2 specific sponsors earlier this evening. So if you listened well, then you should be able to answer well. Name me 2 sponsors for the Wine and Cheese event that was held last Saturday. And the second question is, name the chairman of the NRP St. John's constituency group. So those are 2 questions that I'm inviting people to call in. I don't want to take this cell phone back home. So please, we have 15 minutes. Call in and let me know that, and try to, we have someone who is on the ball. This is our first caller for the question.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
The chairman, you say, is Halstead Pemberton.
Correct.
And 2 sponsors, I think, is Carl Claxton and Swanee. Swanee was maybe. Huh? Swanson?
Okay, caller, you're going to have to call back. You have the first part of the question, the second part of the question actually, which is the chairman, who is Halstead Pemberton, and the answer to the question is for the 2 sponsors. Yes, Carl would have done his part. Yes, Swanee would have done his part, but those are not the 2 sponsors who I would have called out earlier this evening. I would have recognized 2 particular sponsors earlier in the evening, those are the ones I'm making reference to. I want to test you to see how close you were listening to me tonight.
No, I missed them. I missed a lot, so that's why.
Okay, darling, sorry.
Okay, all right.
But you can call back. Anybody else want the cell phone? Nobody else want the cell phone, so it seems like I might have to take home the cell phone tonight. But I don't want to take it back, so I'm encouraging all those who at the function, remember the qualifying conditions. You must have been an attendee at the Wine and Cheese event, and the cell phone is yours to take if you could answer the 2 questions. Now, someone already been generous enough to answer the first one part of the question, which was the name of the NRP St. John's Constituency Group Chairman, who is Mr. Alsted Pemberton. So we have our next caller on the line. Caller, go ahead.
Digicel, Wine Cork, and Alsted Pemberton.
Okay, Digicel is correct. Alsted Pemberton is correct, but Wine Cork is not correct. So I'll ask you to call again. Okay? Thanks for playing. Yes, so there you go, people. So we're very close. We're getting close to winding down the show, as well as we're getting close to getting a winner for this cell phone. So, caller, you're on.
Good night.
Good night.
Alfred Pemberton, the chairman,
Yes.
Martin Ingrid, and Digicel sponsors.
Okay. You are correct that Smarty would have played his part, yes, but he's not one of the major sponsors who I would have acknowledged earlier. But Digicel is correct, and we just need now to find the other sponsor who I would have acknowledged earlier in the conversation. So thanks for calling. Thanks for calling. We have another caller? No? Okay, well, it seems like everyone has a phone in Nevis now, so people are not excited about getting cell phones. I guess next time we're going to have to get one of those 72-inch televisions to give away. Well, we can have that as a consideration for our next event coming up. Or maybe if no one wins tonight, maybe we can take this same phone to the next event we have coming up, and then we can gift it then. But we have another caller, someone who is willing to try. Caller, this caller has lost confidence in their answer, I would think. Caller, yes, is the caller back? No? Okay, no, the caller lost confidence in the answer. So tonight, we have another caller. Good night, caller.
Good night, Lime and Digicel.
Okay, Digicel is correct, Lime isn't. So I encourage you to call back. Someone called earlier. I think the first caller, yes, got pretty close to the answer. Yes, caller, you're on.
Alsted Pemberton,
Yes,
Romella Jeffers, and Digicel.
Romelo did play a part in the whole experience, yes, and he's very good, and he did contribute a lot, but he was not unfortunately, he's not the one who I would have acknowledged earlier as a major sponsor. So you can call back. Someone called earlier, just a clue, someone called earlier and they got pretty close to the answer. So we have another caller. Caller, you're on. We lost that caller. Yes. Okay. So just to give a clue, someone called earlier and screw. They said screw, and that is part of the answer. They just didn't have the correct order of the sponsor's name. Yes, caller, you're on.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm calling to try.
Go right ahead, darling.
Digicel and Alsted Pemberton.
Yes. 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 So we're asking for 2 sponsors, though. So Digicel is one of the major sponsors, and then there was another sponsor with some screw in the name. That's the best I can do for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So, yes, screw is in the name of the second sponsor. And so we have a caller, and I think we have a winner this time. It sounds like, it just feels like it. Caller, go right ahead, please.
Yes. The wine place, I think, is the Wine Barrel over at what was the name?
The location is not important. The name is important, though.
I think it is. I don't remember if the name is Wine Barrel.
No, you're not correct. You're not correct. The name has screw in it.
As
The name has screw in it. That is the best I can do. I can't give you any other clue. But you're correct. Alsted Pemberton is our chairman for the NRP St. John's constituency group, a very hard worker. And we have another caller. Caller, you're on? Yes, caller, you're on?
Yes, I'm trying again.
Yes, dear, go right ahead.
Did you sell? I'm
Yes.
Wine and School.
Okay. Well, we almost got it, but that's not quite it. So could you call back, please?
Okay.
Yeah, so we're getting close. We're getting close to, and I think, yes, we have another caller, please. Go right ahead,
Hi.
caller. Good night.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead, please.
Alfred Pemberton,
Yes.
Park School, and
Yes,
Digital.
you're correct. And
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Can I give you a name, please?
Sandra Willis.
Sandra Willett. Wow. And I don't even have to try to get anyone to verify that you were there, because I think I know
I had a
know,
ball.
I know you had a ball.
I called in first,
You did.
but I didn't
You didn't
have
have the
the chance
conference
to.
call.
I went back to my drawing board.
You did, and you did well.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations. And
Thanks.
so I'm holding on to your digital cell phone, and so I would like for you to contact me and let me know when I can drop it off at your convenience. Okay?
Okay, I'll call you.
Okay, darling. Thanks for
Have a
playing.
good night. Bye.
You too, and see you at our next event. So there you have it, Sandra Willett. She's such a lucky lady, and I know she had a ball. We all had a ball, and we're looking forward to our next gig. And that should be coming up shortly, because we've been having, we would be having a series of activities closer to the end of this month to mark the anniversary of the NRP, the Nevis Reformation Party, the formation of the Nevis Reformation Party. And so listen, I'm encouraging all of us to stay tuned to whatever bulletin that the NRP would have to put out. We use our Facebook page, we use this medium, so just listen out for us, and even our individual Facebook pages, we would post information that we think you need to know. And so I would encourage you all to stay tuned and keep following us on the issues as well as on the activities that we are having. We're planning a church service, and we will be inviting people to come out with us. I don't want yet to publish the exact, I don't have the exact schedule anyway, but just to give you a hint as to things to come, we have the church service to come, and then we have a dinner to come, and then we have some other exciting activities to come. Someone wants to speak to us this late? Oh yeah, well we can entertain them. Yes, good night, caller.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Digital and Cork and School.
Yes, Digital and Cork and School. You did your homework, but you turned it in a little late. Someone else already turned in their work before you did, and so we had no choice but to award them, and I don't think they want to share a phone.
Okay, that's good.
But thanks for playing, and it was a pleasure having you. It was a pleasure hosting the event and having you guys. It really was. I think we had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at our next event. All right?
It was.
Thank you, darling. Enjoy the rest of your evening. All right.
Yes, thanks.
Good night. All right. Bye. Yeah, so there you have it. I'm getting a message that okay, yes, all right. The Paradise thing was addressed. All right. Issue was addressed. All right. In recapping, though, I just want to remind us that we're in election mode. We are in election mode. What we don't want to see happen is for it to disintegrate into a cussing competition. You're definitely not going to get it from me. You're not likely to get it from our platform. And so I want people to be able to acknowledge the differentiation between the two, approaches. Because for us, we it's not like we don't know things about people, but we prefer not to. We prefer not to go there. You know, it is not healthy. It's not healthy for the debate. It's not healthy for the nation building. You know, we don't tear down each other just because other people want to serve. I don't understand. I could never understand that kind of attitude, because I tell people, during my years of growing up in the community, and every time there was a formation or an attempt to form a service, some kind of service club or something, I never had to compete. I would just put my name up, or someone would just put my name up. I would accept, and it would be smooth sailing because nobody else is going to compete for the position. And so I grew up in that kind of environment where people just acknowledge, okay, you want to serve, then they allow you the courtesy of serving, and they support you. And then I said I recognize that we have some deficiencies in our representative. I mean, nobody's perfect, you know, everybody have their strengths, and obviously he has not really, you know, lived up to the expectation of many in our society, and particularly in our community. And so I said, let me just step in, you know, to fill that void, because I think I may have just what he doesn't have, you know. And it wasn't supposed to be anything personal. It wasn't supposed to be any personal attack. I didn't come out swinging and saying all that I knew about him or didn't know about him, or, you know, we're family, for God's sake. And even outside of that, I don't attack people like that. That is not necessary in a civilized society. And so I would have come into the race saying, you know, I am here about the issues. And every time I see him persisting in the personal attacks, I would reach out to him and I would say, you know, don't, you know, tone it down, man. You know, let's not go there. I would come, and that time I would still be, you know, maybe on a Wednesday night tuning in, and I would realize the direction he's going, and I would, you know, make a comment, a public statement, and I would say, let us focus on the issues. And I've been encouraging, you know, that kind of approach now from since last year, since I entered. And I'll be quite honest, I'm so disappointed that the response, well, he has just not been responding in the kind of positive way that I thought he would. And I'm so disappointed, and I just want to make the appeal to him again as the leader. You know, people expect better. People don't expect this level of animosity towards other people who just want to serve. That's all we're saying. We want the opportunity to serve. It's like, it's not about casting any aspersion on other people and all the rest of it. You know, it's about, let us at least be able to, in a fair discussion, be able, and in fair circumstances, be able to at least choose our representative. Let the representative speak to the issues that are affecting all of us. Let them get the opportunity to say what they would do differently. Let them say, you know, what they would do to make Nevis a better place. And that's all we ask, just for a conducive, you know, environment that we can all thrive and make our contribution to nation building. And I want to make the appeal again in closing, make the appeal to the leader on the other side to start behaving in the way that we are expecting, because we expected better. We help to invest in the education of all of our people, and so we expect all of us to behave in a civilized manner. Please, let us just focus on the issues and stop attacking the personalities. Good night, God bless, and see you guys when I get back in the next 5 weeks or so. It was a pleasure being your host tonight. Steve will be here next week, I hope. And until then, God bless and protect us through this hurricane season.
Your voice, your voice, your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views